72nd minute. Switzerland have just equalized in a World Cup quarter-final against Argentina. Then Leandro Paredes is booked for a foul on Breel Embolo, and the video assistant referee intervenes. The booking is reversed. Embolo is cautioned instead for going down too easily. It's his second yellow. Switzerland play the rest of the match with 10 men. Argentina win 3-1 in extra time. And 17 days later, football's law-making body published a clarification saying that decision should not have happened, which is when a lot of people went back and dug up something Louis van Gaal said 3 years ago. Let's go. First, let's be accurate about this, because almost nobody quoting him currently is. September 2023. Van Gaal, retired, talking to the Dutch broadcaster NOS about the 2022 quarter-final his Netherlands side had lost to Argentina 9 months earlier. He did not use the word rigged. That's a headline. What he said was this: if you see how Argentina get their goals and how we get ours, and how some of Argentina's players crossed the line and weren't punished, then I think it's all a preconceived game. Asked what he meant by that, he said, I mean everything I say. Asked directly whether he meant Messi should become world champion, he said, I think so, yes. That's the actual claim. It's vaguer than the version circulating, and in one sense it's worse. He's not alleging a specific fixed decision, he's alleging a direction of travel. His own captain didn't back him. Virgil van Dijk said publicly he didn't share the opinion, and at the time, the counter-argument was simple. Show us one decision. One moment where the whistle bent a way that tournament football doesn't already explain. For 3 years, nobody could. If you like football stories told with receipts instead of noise, subscribe. It's free, and it's the whole point of this channel. Some context on why Van Gaal was in a position to say it. December 2022. Lusail. Netherlands against Argentina, in a quarter-final that stopped resembling a football match somewhere around the hour mark. A record-setting number of cards. Messi cupping his ears in front of the Dutch bench. Wout Weghorst scoring twice late to force extra time from 2 down. Argentina winning the shootout. Van Gaal had already announced he was stepping down. He gave his press conference and then said nothing about it publicly for 9 months. When he finally did, the football world processed it the way it processes most post-career outbursts. A headline, a day of argument, then nothing. Bitter old man, sore loser, move on. That was the settled verdict for 3 years. Then the 2026 World Cup happened, and one specific decision reopened it. Kansas City, the 11th of July. Argentina against Switzerland in the quarter-final. Switzerland equalized through Dan Ndoye just after the hour. 1-1, and Argentina are wobbling. 5 minutes later, Leandro Paredes goes into a challenge with Breel Embolo. Embolo goes down. The referee, João Pinheiro of Portugal, books Paredes. And then the video assistant referee intervenes. And here's where you need to follow the sequence carefully, because almost every version of this circulating online has it backwards. The video showed Embolo going down before Paredes made contact. So the VAR flagged it under the mistaken identity protocol, the rule that lets a referee move a card from the wrong player to the right one. Except this wasn't the wrong player being carded. This was no foul having occurred at all, and the offense being reclassified as simulation. Embolo had been booked earlier in the match. So the second yellow meant a red. He left the pitch in tears with teammates around him. Switzerland held on to extra time. Then Julian Alvarez scored from distance in the 112th minute, and Lautaro Martinez added another. 3-1. Switzerland's manager Murat Yakin called the decision completely unacceptable. And here's the quote that makes this section, because it doesn't come from the losing side. Lionel Scaloni, afterwards, said luck had been on Argentina's side, because one of the opposition players had been sent off, the winning manager naming it. Now the part that turned a controversy into something bigger. IFAB, the International Football Association Board, is the body that writes the laws of the game. It's made up of FIFA-appointed officials and the 4 British football associations. It meets once a year. It is not a disciplinary panel, and it does not review individual matches, which is exactly why what happened next mattered. 2.5 weeks after the quarter-final, IFAB published a clarification. The mistaken identity protocol was not eligible for that type of incident at this World Cup. It could be in future, but not yet. Not while the wider review of video refereeing that's been running since March is still open. Read plainly, That is football's law-making body, confirming that a match-changing decision in a World Cup quarter-final was applied wrongly. And there's a genuinely odd wrinkle. In the same statement, IFAB said the use of the clause against simulation had been well received. The thing shouldn't have been done, and also people liked it. Both, in one statement. UEFA welcomed the explanation, and their line on it was the sharpest anyone managed. Video review is not meant to re-referee the game. Switzerland did not get the result back. Nobody ever does. Here's where this video goes somewhere the rest of this conversation online hasn't. Because since IFAB published that clarification, an enormous amount has been added to the pile that simply isn't true. And if you're going to make a case, the case has to survive contact with the record. The Egypt match. The version circulating is that Egypt had a legitimate goal ruled out for a microscopic offside and never recovered. That's not what happened. Egypt had a goal disallowed on the counter for a foul on Lisandro Martinez in the build-up, not offside. And Egypt scored anyway, in the 67th minute, to go 2-0 up. They led by 2 goals with 11 minutes left in a World Cup round of 16 tie. Romero pulled one back, Messi leveled it, and Enzo Fernandez won it in stoppage time, 3-2. Egypt did complain that officials were favoring Argentina. They were also 2 goals up with 11 minutes to go, and lost. The Colombia quarter-final, there wasn't one. Argentina played Switzerland in the quarter-final. Colombia went out a round earlier, to Switzerland on penalties. The England semi-final, the version going round has England equalising through Bellingham and then being denied a penalty. England didn't equalise. They led, through Anthony Gordon in the 55th minute. Enzo Fernandez equalised on 85. Lautaro Martinez won it on 92, from a Messi cross. England were beaten by 2 late goals. That's a different kind of loss from being cheated, and it's worth being honest about which one it was. If your argument needs those 3 things to be true, and none of them are, then your argument was never resting on the Embolo decision. It was resting on a feeling, and reaching for whatever fitted. The Embolo decision is real. It's documented. It's officially acknowledged. That's the strongest card in this deck. And stacking invented ones on top of it makes the whole hand weaker, not stronger. So let's put the strongest possible case against everything I've just laid out. 1. The rule wasn't invented for Argentina. Mistaken identity was used earlier in the same tournament, in the United States opening match against Paraguay. A card moved after a challenge involving Tim Ream. Same protocol, different match, no conspiracy attached. A tool being used inconsistently across a tournament is a refereeing problem. It isn't a targeted one. 2. IFAB clarified a protocol. It didn't allege anything. The statement is about when a clause may be applied. It says nothing about intent, nothing about Argentina, nothing about any official's motives. Reading a conspiracy into a procedural note is doing exactly what I just criticized. 3. And this is the one people skip. The decisive red card of this tournament went against Argentina. In the final, Enzo Fernandez was sent off for a second yellow in stoppage time, for a foul on Pau Cubarsí. Reviewed, upheld. Argentina played roughly half an hour of extra time a man down, and lost the World Cup 1-0. They had 0 shots on target in normal time. Emiliano Martinez made 11 saves, a final record, and Spain had a goal ruled out in the 96th minute for a foul in the build-up, a call Spain supporters still dispute. If the tournament was tilted toward Argentina, it stopped being tilted at the exact moment it would have mattered most. That's a serious problem for the rigging thesis, and anyone making it honestly has to deal with it. If this is how you want football covered, the documented separated from the assumed, subscribe, and turn on notifications. So where does that leave us? Not with a fix. Nobody has proven a fixed match at this World Cup, and this video isn't claiming one. What we have is a documented officiating error, publicly acknowledged. In a quarter-final it changed, but here's why that's still a big deal, and it has nothing to do with Argentina. Football spent 30 years resisting video review, partly because of this exact problem. Once a governing body confirms in public that one decision was wrong, every decision becomes arguable. The next contested call in a knockout tie doesn't get judged on whether it was defensible at the time. It gets judged against the Embolo precedent. They admitted that one. Why not this one? That's the door IFAB opened. Probably necessarily, certainly permanently. And it's why Van Gaal's comment reads differently in 2026 than it did in 2023. Not because he was proved right, he wasn't. His claim was that a tournament was preconceived, and there's no evidence of that. And IFAB's clarification isn't evidence of it either. He reads differently, because in 2023, the answer to him was, "You can't point to a single decision." That answer is no longer available. There is one. It's officially acknowledged. One documented error is not a conspiracy, but it is the end of the argument that there were none. So pick a side and pick it properly. Is a governing body publicly correcting a match-changing decision a sign of a system working, catching its own error, in public, and fixing the guidance? Or is it a system admitting it got a World Cup quarter-final wrong and then doing nothing about the result? And the harder one. Van Gaal said the tournament was preconceived. The record says one decision was wrongly applied, and the eventual outcome went against the team he accused of being favoured. So is he a man who was vindicated, a man who got lucky, or a man who was always wrong and just happens to sound prophetic now? Make the case, show the receipts, actual ones. If you're going to cite the Egypt match or the England semi-final, check what happened first, because I did, and it isn't what people are saying. Best arguments get pinned. Subscribe to Pitchside FC. Turn on notifications. Pitchside FC. Pick a side.